I advise you all and myself to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to organize our affairs. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, in one of his sermons, he says, أما بعد فإن الله سبحانه وتعالى خلق الخلق حين خلقهم غنيا عن طاعتهم آمنا عن معصيتهم. This is the very famous, one of the most famous sermons of Amir al-Mu'mineen, which is the sermon number 193, also known as Khutbatul Muttaqeen, where Amir al-Mu'mineen says that أما بعد فإن الله سبحانه وتعالى خلق الخلق حين خلقهم غنيا عن طاعتهم. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created his creation, he was self-sufficient and he was needless of their obedience. آمنا من معصيتهم, and he was safe from their sinning also. Now this sermon, before I get into the important details of this phrase, I have decided that we are going to go through this sermon inshallah up till the end in the following weeks also. And it is a very interesting sermon, and I have seen many of the scholars, they quote this sermon especially in during the Friday sermons, because it is important to guide people and to ask people and to invite people towards piety and righteousness, and this sermon is one of the most important sermons for that. Now this is from Nahjul Balagha, and Nahjul Balagha is not the book that has been written by Amir al-Mu'mineen, some might think, but it is a book that was compiled by Sayyid al-Radhi, and it has the sayings and the sermons and the letters of Amir al-Mu'mineen, where you have almost 241 sermons, 79 letters, and 480 maxims, which are the short and wise sayings of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So this is what Nahjul Balagha is, and from that I'm quoting this sermon, which is the sermon number 193, which is also known as Khutbatul Muttaqeen, and it is also known as Khutbatul Hammam. Hammam was one of the companions and one of the devotees of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and it is said that many of the scholars, they have narrated this story and this instance also, especially Muhammad bin Talha al-Shafi'i in his book Matalib al-Sa'ul fi Manaqib al-Rasul. He says that once Amir al-Mu'mineen left his house and came out of his house, and he saw a group of people standing in front of his house, and he asked them that, who are you? So they replied that, Ya Ali, we are your Shia. We are your Shia, we are your followers. So Amir al-Mu'mineen said that, I don't see the signs of being a Shia on your faces. So they were ashamed, and they lowered their gazes, and they lowered their heads. One of the person from out of that group, he asks, Ya Ali, tell us what are the signs of being a Shia. So Amir al-Mu'mineen did not reply anything, and he was quiet. Amongst those people was Hammam, this companion, this devotee of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And he insisted, and he said, Ya Ali, tell us the signs of being a true Shia, and tell us the signs of being a Muttaqi, and someone who's pious. Now this is how this sermon is narrated in Nahjul Balagha. روي أن صاحبا لأمير المؤمنين عليه الصلاة والسلام يقال له همام. It is being stated and it has been narrated that there was a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he was known as Hammam. كان رجلا عابدا. He was a God-fearing person. He was a very, a person of, of piety, of doing ibadah and God-fearing. Now, فقال له يا أمير المؤمنين. Hammam says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, صف لي المتقين. Ya Ali, please, describe the attributes and the characteristics of a muttaqi person, a pious person. And I want to know what is piety. حتى كان أني أنظر إليهم. And this is now very interesting. Now this was the amount of trust and confidence that the devotees had in Amir al-Mu'mineen, because Nahjul Balagha is not only it's a compilation of out of many sermons and sayings of Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is not the only sayings of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sayyid Radhi was very fond of eloquent texts, Arabic texts, so he compiled these most eloquent texts and sayings of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So people had this faith and confidence that Amir al-Mu'mineen is very eloquent, and he says, describe Muttaqeen for me كأني أنظر إليهم. Describe Muttaqeen for me as if I am looking at a Muttaqi, as if I'm looking at these qualities. Basically, he's asking Amir al-Mu'mineen to pull him out of ignorance and take him to the level of shuhud, take him to the level of intuition, take him to the level of, where he's witnessing what taqwa is. فَتَثَاقَلَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ عَنْ جَوَابِهِ ثُمَّ قَالَ يَا هَمَّامُ. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam refrained, but he did not want to, go into details. But Amir alayhi salatu wasalam replied and said, Ya Hammam, ittaqillaha wa ahsin. O Hammam, fear Allah and do good deeds. And then Imam quotes this ayah, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مُحْسِنُونَ. Because verily Allah is with those who guard themselves from the evil and who do good deeds. This is from chapter Nahl 128. So when Hammam said that Sifli al-Muttaqeen, tell me who Muttaqeen is, who are these people? Basically, a Muttaqi will be a person who will have these characteristics of being a Shia. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam very briefly replied, and Imam said that ittaqillaha wa ahsin, fear Allah and do good deeds. But falam yaqna Hammam. Now this is again a lesson for us. We need to go into detail sometimes. Every person needs in-depth understanding, and the more you ask your Imam, the more he is going to give you. So Hammam was not satisfied with this answer. Hammam was, he was not content, and he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'min, I need to know more. Please guide me more. Please tell me more. Ittaqillaha wa ahsin. I know this could be the shortest, description of being a muttaqi. Ittaqillaha wa ahsin. Fear Allah and do good things. But Hammam says, فَلَمْ يَقْنَعْ Hammam بِهَذَا الْقَوْلِ حَتَّى عَزِمَ عَلَيْهِ. But Hammam was not satisfied, and he insisted Imam to, elaborate more and to, explain more. So now here Amir al-Mu'mineen starts, فحمد عليه وصلى الله وحمد الله وأثني عليه صلى الله على النبي ثم قال. And here was the starting point of that sermon, where Amir al-Mu'mineen starts to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to ask Allah to send the blessings on the Holy Prophet, and then he gets into the details. Now here Amir al-Mu'mineen is explaining who true muttaqi are. And before he goes into these details, Amir al-Mu'mineen starts in this manner. أما بعد فإن الله سبحانه وتعالى. This is what I quoted at the beginning of the sermon. أما بعد فإن الله سبحانه وتعالى خلق الخلق حين خلقهم غنيا عن طاعتهم. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created his creation, at that very moment also he was self-sufficient, and he was needless of their obedience. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he's creating someone, he does not need their obedience. آمِنًا مِنْ مَعْصِيَتِهِمْ. And he's also safe from their disobedience. So when Allah is creating, now here many of the scholars and commentators at this very point, they have pointed out this very important issue, that Amir al-Mu'mineen, before going into details and describing the characteristics and the attributes of a muttaqi, Amir al-Mu'mineen wants us to get a very clear picture that if I am telling you to be like this, understand one thing very clear, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need all these things from you. It is not going to benefit him. He needs it for your own sake. He's asking you to do this for your own sake. Now, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, لِأَنَّهُ لَا تَضُرُّهُ مَعْصِيَةٌ مَنْ عَصَاهُ. If anybody disobeys him, it is not going to harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تَنْفَعَهُ طَاعَةُ مَنْ أَطَاعَهُ. And also, he is not going to achieve anything from the obedience of the people obeying him. Now, this is something very important. Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam describes the very essence of ubudiyah, the very essence of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we see in the Holy Quran. Now there are two things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is self-sufficient, is needless of anything, does not need our worship, does not need our obedience. Neither he needs our obedience, nor he will receive any anything from us disobeying him. Therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need us, does not need our obedience. But on the second hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara ila Allah wallahul ghaniyul hamid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need you. You are those people who need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu antumul fuqara. You are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah, wallahu huwal ghaniyul hamid. And Allah is ghani. Allah is self-sufficient. Allah does not need you. But understanding this issue, I want to come to a very important question now, which is a very important theological question in our aqaid, in our belief system. Then on the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created jinn and I have not created mankind but for them to worship me. So now on one hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I do not need anything from you. And on the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I have created you to worship me. Now, this question might come in our minds that since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ghani, does not need anything from us, then why is he asking us to worship him? What would he gain from our worship? How can he benefit from our worship? And no harm can reach him from our disobedience. But still, he's asking us to worship him. To understand this and to clarify this doubt, in the book Anwar al-Nu'maniyah, there is a very short story which clarifies this doubt, and it is a story of Prophet Musa. Now, Prophet Musa, one day, a young man came to Prophet Musa, and I'm quoting this hadith, this narration, and this story because stories usually, you connect very quickly to the stories, especially for the young ones and the youth. So there was a young man who came to Prophet Musa and said, "O Prophet of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered us to worship him. But we know," the same question, "but we know that he does not need our worship. He is ghani, he is self-sufficient, he does not need our worship. So why do we need to worship him? What benefit is going to, how is it going to benefit him that if we worship him?" Now, you understand this paradoxical statement. Now, we are having in our minds sometimes something which we think is right. So Prophet Musa, not going into the philosophy of these things, he again narrates a story of himself, and he says, when I was young, this is Prophet Musa narrating to this young man who came. Prophet Musa said, once upon a time when I was young, I was a teenager, I was a shepherd, and I used to look after the sheep of Prophet Shu'aib. And one day when I was out with these sheep, one of the sheep of Prophet Shu'aib climbed a cliff, a stony cliff, a rocky cliff, and did not come down. And I was afraid that this sheep might fall and might hurt itself, or a wolf might come and attack and tear it apart because it was exposed, it was out of the herd. So Prophet Musa said that I shouted and I called the sheep, come down, you're going to hurt yourself, and it wouldn't listen, it wouldn't come down. So I was forced to climb this rocky cliff, and I took the pain to climb, and out of this hardship, I went up there on the top of the hill, on top of this cliff, and took the goat and the sheep and grabbed it, and I was coming down. While I was coming down, now this is the lesson for all of us. Remember the question: when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need, he's self-sufficient, why is he calling us for his worship? So Prophet Musa, he says, while coming down, I had this sheep in my arms, and I was whispering to the sheep in its ear, and I was telling this sheep, oh sheep, you know, Musa is the Prophet of Allah and does not need anybody's money. And don't think that I am saving your life for a penny that I will get from Shu'aib. Don't think I'm saving your life because I'm going to sell you and I will get a penny or a half, some money out of selling you. I am only protecting you for your own sake, for your own good, and I'm protecting you from the danger that you are exposed to and that you are unaware of. You don't know there is danger. You don't know there is a wolf behind that cliff. You don't know you are going to fall and hurt yourself. Now Prophet Musa tells this young man and says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need anything from us, but He is guiding us, calling us towards Himself for our own good, for our own sake. Therefore, when He tells you to obey Him, to pray to Him, it is not for Him. He is not going to benefit anything. It is for our own sake. It is for our own betterment. Therefore, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, does not mean Allah wants something from us, or Allah is going to benefit something from our worship, or if we don't pray to Him, don't worship Him, there's going to be any harm to Him. No, He's not going to benefit from our worship, and there is going to be no harm received by Him by us not worshipping Him or by disobeying Him. This very important and short story tells us that we are always exposed to the danger of Satan, to the dangers of evil, to the dangers of devil misguiding us. Therefore, every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 5 times a day, the azan calls us, we have to you have to answer this call. You have to go running towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَاسْعَوْا إِلَىٰ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعِ. This is what we recite during in the Surah Al-Jumu'ah. Therefore, we understand now, this is how Amir al-Mu'mineen is starting his sermon, and he wants to now slowly and gradually tell people what are the qualities of a true Shia, what are the qualities of a pious person. Now, in the second part of the sermon, I'm going to quote a few more riwayat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlighten our souls and minds with the true seerah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wassalam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand and to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He wants us to worship Him. Inna ahsan al-hadith wa ablagh al-maw'ada kitab Allah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا وشفيع المذنبين أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما حجة ابن الحسن المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In a narration, our 11th Imam, Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salatu wassalam, reminds us of, again, the same thing, the same issue that we are talking about. And Imam says, أن الله لما فرض عليكم الفرائض لم يفرض عليكم بحاجة منه إليه. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has imposed obligations upon you, these obligations are not for Him, for Allah to benefit from. It is for you to benefit from. Therefore, nobody should think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is obligating us and we are going to, somehow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to benefit from our prayers, from our fasting, from our hajj. No. Imam says, بَلْ رَحْمَةً مِّنْهُ إِلَيْكُمْ. These obligations are rahmah. These are this is a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from His side to you. Why we are being obligated? Why all this sharia? Why all these, norms and laws? لَيَمِيزَ الْخَبِيثَ مِنَ الطَّيِّبِ, so that we may differentiate good from evil. So may we differentiate the obedient from disobedient. So may we may understand who is going to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who is a God-fearing person, and who is not going to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, why is this a mercy? It is very, unique to see the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He simplified things for us. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, besides telling us what Sirat al-Mustaqeen is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also told us and informed us about the referent, about the example, the exact misdaq of perfection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to achieve this perfection, wants us to gain this perfection. Now, besides telling us what this perfection is, what is the referent of this perfection, He has also informed us about the path that is going to lead us towards this perfection. Not that He simply told us, you need to be perfect, you need to gain perfection. No, He has also informed us how to get to this perfection, how to achieve this perfection. Now, it would have been unfair on the part of our Creator to not let us know. So if He did not inform us, so many people around the world, they have mistaken the example, the misdaq, the referent of perfection. Few might think that our perfection is, gaining lots of wealth. They find their perfection in becoming wealthier and wealthy and rich. They want to be the richest person on the face of earth. Some people, they think that their perfection is to become the greatest ruler, or the most the biggest dictator of their time. So these are the perfections sometimes people might think, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already told us that your perfection is to get closeness and proximity to me. Taqarrub ila Allah is the final perfection for mankind, for us, for the creation. And what is the path for this perfection? That is Sirat al-Mustaqeen. That is obedience. That is praying to Him. And all of this is for us. I've told you this story of the sheep, that all of this is for us. It is nothing to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is not going to gain anything from our obedience, our ibadat, and He's not going to lose anything if we don't obey Him, or if someone disobeys Him. Therefore, now there might be a question in someone's mind that I don't want to get into all this mess of obeying and disobeying, and I want to be neutral. Today, in today's world, you will find many people with this attitude. I'm neutral. I don't want to be, no white, no black. I want to be in the gray area. There are no gray areas when it comes to religion. There are no gray areas when it comes to obeying Allah or disobeying Allah. Either you are obeying Him or you are disobeying Him. It's that simple. Now, some people want to, be neutral. Some people want to be in the middle path, and there is no middle path. There is either good or there is either bad. There is obedience. You cannot say that now this statement that I'm going to make might confuse you, but it is a issue that has to be discussed in theology, not here. But some people might say that I was not asked before I was created. If I were to be asked, I would have denied. There is this doubt that if I were to be asked that do you want creation, I would have denied. I would not want to come in this world full of chaos and full of these sadness and these hardships. I would have denied. People they start thinking in this paradoxical way. Now they also think that I never wanted to be in this situation. I don't want to make these choices for obeying Allah or to disobeying Allah. I don't want hell and I don't want heaven. Neither of them. I want, I'm happy where I am. Don't teach me all this perfection. I don't want to be perfect. I don't want to be imperfect. I want to be where I am. This is not going to happen. There is no third path. There is nothing like that. Either you're obeying or you're not obeying. Yes, there might be a third thing that people might confuse themselves. That third thing is the path of forgiveness. That third part is the part of forgiveness. Yes, anytime you deviate, anytime you get misguided, or you are overwhelmed with the desires, your nafs, Satan, devil, whatever you want to accuse for your sins, you always have a window open for forgiveness. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. This is the mercy of Allah. This is what Imam is saying, that all of these obligations are out of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants you to achieve perfection, and He is telling you the path of perfection. Now, there are so many ahadith and riwayats. Time is running out, but very quickly I will come to this small story, which is narrated by Ustad Hussein Ansarian, and he quotes it from Sheikh Bahai, about this third path, which people might think it is a path, but it is not a path. There is only one sarat, which is sarat al-mustaqeen. There might be subul, there might be different ways to get to this path. Now, but this path of forgiveness is always open to all. Now he narrates this story, that there was a village, and in that village, a couple, a husband, wife, lived with their family, and this husband was a very, sinful person, and people, did not like him, and he always wronged others, and always used to, people hated him practically, and basically nobody liked him, and he was a very cruel, bad person. Now, when he died one day, out of their anger, they did not come to attend his funeral, and nobody was willing to perform those last rites, tadfeen, takfeen, and pray. So nobody came, and this poor lady with the dead body was there in the house, and she went out in the village, called the people. Nobody came, nobody answered her call. So she was forced to hire people to take out this body and take it out of the town, village, and leave it in the open desert. So people came, they took the money, they picked up the body, and they came out to the desert and left it near a mountain. Now, on top of this mountain, there lived a noble man, very graceful, very God-fearing, Arif, Abid. He came running down, seeing this scene, and he saw this lady with a dead body, and he came running down and started participating and started, the rituals. The lady was surprised. She said, nobody is, willing to participate, and nobody is willing to help me because my husband was a bad man. Why are you doing this? Now, as he started helping her, the word spread, and the people got to know in the town that Abid, that noble man, God-fearing man who everybody respected, is participating and is performing the last rituals. We ignored him. We ignored the dead body, and this guy is, participating. We have to go out, find out what is the issue, and we might, want to stop him doing from this. So everybody came, and they gathered, and they saw that this Abid is doing this, and they asked him, "Why are you doing this? He was a very bad man. He always wronged us. He always cheated us." He said that last night I had a dream, and I received a message that a lady is going to come with a dead body, and you have to perform the rituals, and you have to do the tadfeen, the takfeen, and pray and everything. So when I saw this today morning, I understood that that dream, that message was a genuine one. So I'm doing this. Now remember why I'm quoting this, because always this path of forgiveness is open to all, and one should never, ever get this feeling of hopelessness from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, so he completed all his rituals, and at the end, he went on, he asked the wife that, we all knew what kind of a person he was, but me receiving this message is something extraordinary, and it's surprising for all of us. And I want to know, tell me something that he used to do in his life, which was, other than, all these committing crimes and sins. So the wife said, he was a bad person, but every night when he committed all these crimes and sins, he came back home, and he stayed up late night, and he performed his wudu, and he sat down in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, crying out loud and weeping that, "Oh Allah, I got this habit of doing sins, but I repent, but I ask your forgiveness, but I want you to forgive me. Tomorrow I'm not going to do this. But tomorrow morning again, used to go out, do the same thing, but come back again, the same night, again repent, again ask for forgiveness. And morning again, he used to go the same thing because he had developed this habit. So she replied that every day he used to commit crimes and sins, but he used to come and wholeheartedly ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his forgiveness, and he never gave up upon the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is very important for all of us. This is a very important, a crucial, message, that one can never say that, I'm hopeless. I've lost hope and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't know rahmatullah al-wasi'a. It is, the mercy is in a way that we cannot understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this door of forgiveness is always open for all of us. But we have to understand that the door is open only until we are breathing in this world. And after that, the chances are over. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the correct path, which is the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen our aqeedah and our belief towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam wa tahiyyatu wal ikram ala nabiyyina Abil Qasim Mustafa Muhammad. وصل على أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. وصل على فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وعلي بن الحسين. اللهم صل على محمد ومحمد بن علي. اللهم صل على محمد وجعفر بن محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وموسى بن جعفر. اللهم صل على محمد وعلي بن موسى. اللهم صل على محمد ومحمد بن علي. اللهم صل على محمد وعلي بن محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وحسن بن علي. اللهم صل على محمد والحجة ابن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.